Thanks for listening to Creative Control. While I have you here, please consider supporting Youth Empowerment and Support Services, otherwise known as YES. Based in Edmonton, Alberta, YES provides immediate and low-barrier overnight and day shelter, temporary supportive housing, and individualized wraparound supports for young people aged 15 to 24. They work collaboratively within a network of care focused on the prevention of youth homelessness by providing youth with the necessary supports to stabilize their housing, improve their well-being, build life skills, connect with community, and avoid re-entry into homelessness. Learn more about how to donate or otherwise support YES by visiting yess.org.
This is Dmitry Samarov from Chicago, Illinois. And I love listening to Vish Khanna's Creative Control because whether he's talking to a favorite musician or actor of mine or someone I've never heard of, it's as if he's introducing me to a new friend. And the way things are going, couldn't you use a new friend? Listen now.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/creativecontrol today.
Amalia Bortolone-Vitor and Serafina Bortolone-Vitor are talented musicians, songwriters, community advocates, and twin sisters who call Guelph, Ontario home. After some time living in cities like Toronto and Montreal, the sisters each returned to Guelph some 10 years ago and, immersed in its underground DIY music, arts, and cultural communities, felt inspired to make some music of their own. Influenced by their Italian heritage and some of the supernatural stories that inform their family history, they work together as Bonnie Trash and create a haunting amalgam of post-punk, infectious industrial music, and drone rock. On October 28, 2022, Hand-Drawn Dracula released Malocchio, the debut album by Bonnie Trash, and shortly before its release, and Halloween, Emma and Sarah returned to this show to discuss the ups and downs of living in Guelph as music venues emerge and others close, some ideas they have to improve the material conditions of musicians generally, why and how they own an Octopad that I used to rent, the darker aspects of their music and how they may emanate from their childhoods, musical influences and horror movie scores and soundtracks, the film Jaws, future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One network with the support of listeners like you who follow and subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/creativecontrol. That's the primary source of revenue for all the work I put into this show, and your support there is appreciated. Again, for more info, visit patreon.com/creativecontrol. Plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee, all located in Guelph, Ontario, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. This is episode 734 of Creative Control, featuring the wonderful Emma and Sarah of Bonnie Trash, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hi, Bonnie Trash. Are you both there?
Yes, we are. We're here.
It's nice to see you both. Sarah, how's it going?
It's going super well now that I'm talking with you, Vish.
Oh, well, geez, that's the sweetest way to begin a show ever. That's very sweet of you to say that. Thank you for saying so. It's nice to talk to you, too. I'm very happy about this because I miss you guys. I don't see you as much, obviously, as I used to, and I'm not there anymore, so it's weird. Emma, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Hello. Sarah took my line, so I could just say hey.
Well, the sentiment is appreciated. I know what you're saying, and it's mutual. I miss you very much. I don't have, usually I will say, where in the world are you to my guests, but I think I know, you're in Guelph, Ontario. Is that right, Sarah?
You've got it, Vish. We're in Guelph, Ontario, and we miss you as well.
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say again. There's so much sweetness here. Emma, how are things in my beloved Guelph, Ontario? I thought I would have to whisper this question because every time I say Guelph, my daughter gets very upset. She misses the city and her life so much. She's young, right? But as it happens, I believe she's out of the house, so we're okay. Anyway, sorry. Emma, how are things in Guelph generally, would you say?
I think Guelph is recovering. Shows are back, which is great. There's a bit of a venue situation. I'm not sure if you keep up with Guelph today. But
literally, for those listening around the world, there's a publication called Guelph Today. It's not just me checking in with the city each and every day, is what Emma was getting at there. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly. So I think it's just hitting the same common thing that's going around in general is where are the venues? Are there enough venues to support music? It's the same conversation, right? So that's what's going on, but some really promising things are happening. And that's exciting. Right?
A lot of new bands, a lot of new sort of cool events happening. So it's really, really awesome to see that in the Guelph music and arts community.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, Sarah, Emma alluded to keeping up with Guelph Today. Has there been some new venue closure or something that I'm not aware of? Or is it just when I left, and I don't blame myself for this, but when I left, there were not that many venues, certainly not many accessible venues. That was always a problem for us, for people like me who tried to do events from time to time or whoever else. But sorry, Sarah, are there new developments that I should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure if you know, but eBar is no longer hosting events. So that venue sort of lost. And then there has been a new venue that's popped up called Taboo. I believe.
It's the Underground. It was Taboo.
I think it's still, they're calling it Taboo. I'm a little bit rusty in terms of what the name is. I think they're going back in between the Underground or Taboo. So that's really promising. And I think, a lot more people are opening their doors, businesses, to host musical events. I saw that the Sage Soap Company, local business, hosted a show. Outpost Vintage hosts shows. So it's kind of awesome to see that there are shows happening that are outside of typical bars, those kinds of spaces. For instance, next week for our album release show in Guelph, we decided to have it at 10C, which is a community space downtown Guelph. And we wanted to host our show there because we could make it all ages. And it's a little bit of a smaller space, and it's not a bar. So
and it's physically accessible.
Exactly. Okay. So it'll be a nice sort of intimate show.
Yeah.
I don't expect either of you to necessarily speak on behalf of the Bookshelf and the E-Bar, but Emma, do you have any sense of why the E-Bar shut down? For those who don't know, the E-Bar was among the most prominent music and event venues. I've not talked to anyone there, so I don't know what's going on. Emma, do you know what's happening?
I cannot speak for that. I am wondering whether it's an insurance thing.
Oh.
Because insurance policies have changed significantly for venue spaces. And so I don't know whether it's that or it's a larger contribution of things, like a combination, but I have a feeling it might be insurance.
Yeah. Sarah, I've over the last few years, I have invoked a joke, and I'm going to frame the following as a joke. And I just want that to be clear from the get-go. Sarah, do you feel like Guelph has fallen apart since my family and I moved?
I mean, let me tap into the heartstrings and I'll just say, yes.
It is totally a joke, but it does seem like we decided to relocate and then a pandemic happened and the world changed. And I'm not saying we're some, magical beings or something, or maybe evil beings. I don't even know. But Emma, I am starting to, now that you've told me this, because I don't know if you guys, you two would know this. People around the world that are listening may not know this, but like, I spent a lot of time putting on shows at the E-Bar. A good chunk of my 20s and 30s was putting on events at that place, and we used to have really big, fun events, and then it started to slow down, and fewer people were coming out, and it's harder to book bands, and then I kind of was like, why am I doing this? It's not fun anymore on some level. So I stopped, and that happens to all the best people with the best intentions when they're making art or trying to organize art, so it's not unusual. Anyway, my joke is, that's my joke, is that it's a dumb joke. It's a selfish joke. It's probably in poor taste given the calamities, but I just it seems weird that we left.
Things are, yeah, there's some connectedness there.
Well, you guys,
there's some connectedness for sure. And, I will say what's absolutely fantastic is there is a lot of younger folks starting initiatives and organizations and planning events here in Guelph, and some new things are brewing, and it's absolutely fantastic to see that there are others that are sort of carrying on these initiatives in Guelph. So I'm really excited to see what happens, and it's fantastic. There's more bands that have come together, and it's great. So I'm going to take the positive side, and I'm just excited to see what happens.
But you're gone, so I don't know.
But you're gone.
No, it's fine. I'm still here. I'm not there. I'm not gone.
Yeah.
This is not meant to be a eulogy podcast.
You're there.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, it's fine.
My thing is, so you just spoke to something that's very significant, Sarah, which is that I only got into show business, if you will, putting on shows. That's what I used to call it, show business, because there was a void. A fella, Stuart Duncan, used to put on shows very regularly in the early part of this century, and he split town for work and family and all those sorts of things. And there was a void, and that's why what ended up being the Kazoo organization came into being, and that's why I started I got to keep this up. Stuart and people like Stuart, Guelph has a long history of this, but people like Stuart was doing it so regularly, we all got accustomed to it. That there's going to be events, there's going to be stuff to do, and people are going to come through town. And then when he left, some of us were like, oh, shit, got to keep this going somehow, so someone's got to do it. Stuart sort of showed us how to do it, and so we did it. And then when as I allude to Kazoo, which you guys have been a part of in some various capacities and played, they're also done. So what this does is, oh, no, but like you say, Sarah, and Emma, I think you're echoing this, this means other people are going to be like, fuck that. We got to step up. It's our turn to throw down. It's our turn to put on stuff and make this city great. So, Emma, am I on the right track? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. And things wax and wane. That's what always happens. Yeah. It's hard to put on music for a long period of time. And I wish it was easier. Yeah. But you can tell that people get tired because we live in a space where music is valued for only a certain amount, and that certain amount does not cover all the labor that goes into it. So, and I hate to be the person that's like, oh, labor, but no, it is. It's a lot of work, and then you get tired, and then more folks show up, and then that's okay, right? But there's something there where making music happen or promoting culture it's a lot of work that is not, it's appreciated, but it's undervalued, I'd say.
Absolutely. I don't know, Sarah, I also, in hearing what Emma is saying, I don't know. I think there's a big rethink going on because we keep if I may use a horrible military analogy, if your strategy isn't working, if your strategy isn't working and you just keep sending more troops in, and it's still not working, why not change the strategy? So I'm starting to hear more and more like, pandemic or no, this was not sustainable for musicians. This whole model sucked. And, a friend of mine, Ariel, who plays in the band The Burning Hell, just tweeted something recently, and it was great. It was just basically like, I have an idea for sustainable touring, backline in every venue. This way, artists won't have to burn all this gasoline, bringing all this. They still have to do that to get around, but just the carting of stuff and the labor, the physical labor that Emma is alluding to, of lugging gear around and doing this and doing that. Imagine, I think there are venues in Europe and even parts of Western Canada that have that. You know what? Just show up. We've got a PA. We've got all the gear, you know, bring your guitars and whatever else you really like, but we can get you everything. Anyway, Sarah, are you getting the sense that people are trying to change this whole infrastructure right now?
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that you brought up Backline, because we just chatted with our friend Emma, who also subs in for bass from us. I mean, for us, she's basically part of the band as well. She was saying the same thing. She goes, we have to try to get some sort of shared backline that Guelph can have, so that, you know, if there's an out of town band, we can bring that backline to the venue. That would be an absolutely, you know, fantastic thing to provide touring artists and local artists too. Not everybody has a vehicle or transportation to be able to bring gear to the venue. So very, very good point in terms of the backline. It would be fantastic.
Yeah.
To which I ask, you know, how many Long and McQuades are there in Canada?
Yeah.
2, how much does it cost to pay for insurance on something at Long McQuade? $4. It costs $4.
Absolutely.
So then I'm thinking, right? Yeah. So then it doesn't even need to be venue ownership of a backline, because backlines can go to shit, and then you have to focus on repairing that or replacing things. So if somebody is able to supply a backline where you know that it's being taken care of, and you do it on like a month for month basis, perhaps that's fruitful, and Long McQuade can hire more musicians to be part of that. And you know, I say Long and McQuade, and there are a lot of independent music stores too. I say Long and McQuade because everybody uses Long McQuade. Long McQuade has established itself as the place where you can rent gear before you decide whether you want to use it. They can get you things from across Canada because they've established themselves like that. They
already have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
There's 2 things I want to say. First of all, for those listening outside of Canada, Long and McQuade is a national music instrument retailer, and they have this, I don't know if Guitar Center in the States or other people do this, but they have this amazing thing where if you're a band in Ontario and your tour starts in Western Canada, you can fly yourself to Western Canada, to British Columbia, rent your gear at the Long and McQuade in British Columbia, drive it all the way across to Newfoundland, if that's your goal, drop it off in Newfoundland at the Long and McQuade there. It's it's like a library. You pay, obviously, but it's like this amazing borrowing thing. So I wanted to mention that, just to clarify that for people listening who don't know what Long and McQuade is, because it doesn't sound like a music store. It sounds like a law firm. Second of all, I wanted to say we have a Long and McQuade connection, I believe. We did, because I, for a long time, had rented a drum pad. What is it called? That's right.
The Octopad.
The Octopad, I'd rented it because I was playing in a band at the time that needed those kinds of sounds on top of my regular drum kit. And then I had it for a while, and then I gave it back, and I think Bonnie Trash bought that exact drum pad. Is that right? The Octopad?
Yes.
You are absolutely correct. And I still have that Octopad today.
So a little bit of Long and McQuade connections there. So that's great. Now, I appreciate all this conversation and the updates. I really do. I miss home. So it's nice to, even though I like that you're like, things are kind of bad, but also it couldn't be better. Like this is the gap between things being shitty and things looking up again. So that's good. My point about bringing that up again is the interconnectedness, the apparent mysticism that I invoked, because I feel like this is apparent on this wonderful new record of yours, Malocchio. So can you, Sarah, first of all, contextualize what I'm talking about for the listeners? In an overarching sense, what is this album kind of about?
Yeah, absolutely. So this album is very much a culmination of all of our Nona Maria's stories, horror stories, real life, supernatural occurrences that happened to her. These are very, very dear to our hearts. So the album is about these stories. We kind of dive into what, the malocchio means, which is sort of a hex of malice onto another. It's the evil eye in Italian. And we wanted to create an album, a conceptual record based off all of her stories. Her voice is featured in the album, interweaved, and it's just an absolute delight that we were able to create a record with her voice while she was still here. And it comes out on October 28th on Hand Drawn Dracula.
And she has, I'm sorry, I gather from what you're saying that she has passed. I'm sorry for your loss. When was that?
Thank you, Vish. It happened back in May, on May 6th of 2022.
Oh,
and
sorry. Very
yes.
fresh. I'm sorry to hear this. That's horrible.
That's all good.
Thanks for your condolences, Vish. I appreciate it.
Emma, like, I appreciate the context that Sarah's provided, but can we dig a little bit deeper? Why did this emerge? Sorry, no, I appreciate the specificity of the context, but there's also the impulse. Like, when because you guys have, the last time you were on, I think we also got into how you're using your art to delve into family history. That's very interesting in itself. This continues, but in a now horror rock way, kind of like, what the hell, weird stuff. Emma, can you talk about the impulse to actually follow through on what Sarah was talking about? Like, it's one thing to have these stories and in this family history, but why create a whole record around that?
For one, they're good stories. And, just to be crass like that, they're scary. They're scary stories that scared the hell out of Sarah and I as kids and even as adults. So I think the impulse was to also continue what we were doing with our EP, which was Ezelini's Dead. And that was another story that was told to us about this cannibalistic medieval tyrant in our grandparents' hometown. And he would pick peasants and eat them. That was the myth. And so we thought, well, there are so many more stories that look onto this. Let's build upon this, both as a way to see where this could go, right? How well can we play up these stories too and honor what's going on? Also, how can we get a little bit darker? How can we develop our sound to complement these stories being heard as grandkids, these stories that are also being transmitted through a grandparent who probably also embellished moments of it, because that's what you do when you tell a story. And that's what you do when you tell scary stories,
of course.
Especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that, and it's also looking at this desire, I think, for Sarah and I too, to capture, I shouldn't say capture, but it is, but to have a moment in time of our Nona's voice. And her speaking in a dialect that not a lot of people are going to be speaking in even 10 years. Not a lot of people speak it now. So, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of holding on to this and making something that was us, is us.
Yeah.
This is mine and Sarah's.
Yeah.
Yes, something genuine and authentic, and a way to archive and share this Northern Italian folklore and our Nona Maria's stories. And as Emma said, archive the dialect that she speaks, because it is quite literally dying out.
Yeah. Now, I was I'm grateful that you sent me the lyric sheet, which includes translations of your Nona's spiels. I assume this will be included. Will this be included in the record? Or no?
It will only be included in select vinyl. That's as much as I can share at this point in time. But
okay.
But perhaps we'll share in a different sort of medium, perhaps through video on social media or YouTube. So we will have. Okay. We will be sharing the translations just at a later date.
Okay.
For sure.
It's kind of fun to have it be a little bit vague at times, because I don't know. There's something fun when somebody, even if it's one person in an audience, hears and goes, "I know what that is," and everybody else is going, "What the hell is that?"
Well, it's another example too, if I may potentially generalize or speak in cliches. Like Italian, to hear someone speaking, I don't understand what she's saying listening, but the emotional quality suggests something to me. So even though I don't know, I'm privy to the lyric sheet, so I know now. But what I'm saying is just hearing her voice, because it kicks off the record and it concludes the record. Like, it's just an interesting way of giving it emotional depth. It reminds me of Godspeed or Godspeed You Black Emperor, where it's voices. In some cases they're speaking languages that a lot of us would understand, but they're distorted, and in some or they're manipulated. And in a way, I associate hearing a foreign language in an emotive sense, in the way you've contextualized it with the music and everything, in the same regard. Sarah, does that resonate?
Absolutely, that resonates. And what an honor to for you to bring up Godspeed You Black Emperor. Definitely one of our absolute favorite bands.
Yeah, I can hear that. I want to go back to what you were talking about. Emma was talking about hearing the stories actually, this is what I want to ask. Sarah, do you have any recollection as to how old you would have been when you first started hearing some of these stories?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Very young. I believe somewhere around maybe, well, I guess very young, like 8 or 9.
No, I would say 4 or 5.
Younger?
Yeah, because
Emma has a better memory than I do.
Yeah, sorry. So when we grew up right across or up the road from our grandparents. So
they live beside us.
Yeah. So we spent the majority of our time there because there was so much more food. You get ice cream and pasta
and lasagna every day.
But it's that, right? And that's your time. And so you would ask, oh, what was it like over there? What did you do when you were a little kid? And then, of course, they would build onto that. And then you would ask the story again at a different age. And then they'd talk a bit more in depth about it. And then it builds up as you get older. So, yeah.
Here's why I asked this question, and don't take this the wrong way. I'll frame what I'm about to say this way first. I've had a couple of conversations lately, and I invoked the fact that I got into the Beatles when I was like 5, 6 years old because of my cousin. And me, even at that time, was like, the music wasn't enough. I had to devour all the documentaries and the books and the magazines, whatever I could get my hands on, and could understand at those ages. However, it occurred to me that very early in my life, I learned that a Beatle had been shot dead. And very early in my life, I saw the movie Jaws, and I fear the water to this day. And sometimes, particularly during the pandemic, when the news is on, we have turned, and the children are around, my uptight parenting is like, yeah, I don't think we're not ready for this conversation right now about Trump or this or that, So I turn it off. And where I'm coming from is I have been shaped in some way by experiencing scary, fear-inducing things from a young age. And that has made me the anxiety-ridden 44-year-old I am now, trying to navigate logic and pandemics and all these things. I'm trying to be self-aware and admit this, because sometimes when you're spiraling, you're like, why am I like this? Why am I having this anxiety attack? And then I'm not blaming anyone either. It's just the way it was. It's just the way of the world. You can't hide from the world. All this to say, though, you guys in your music have gone dark. You make music that's a little, as much as it's poppy, in a sense, like verse, chorus, verse, catchy, infectious shit. I didn't mean to say shit in a negative way. That's the way kids talk now.
No,
shit is cool, man. It's sick and ill and rad. Anyway, yeah. So it's really great, but you've clearly gone towards what some would say like the gothier aspects of, it's you put your record on, it's a little frightening. So all I'm getting at is, do you assume? Sorry, I just did some armchair psychology. Sarah, would it be fair to say that hearing these horror stories, 4 or 5 years old, has shaped the way you are? And look at you two, no one can see this. You're both dressed completely in black. I feel like I'm at a Cure concert right now. All I'm getting at is, oh, you're wearing a Cure t-shirt.
I'm wearing a Cure t-shirt. You didn't even know I was wearing a hoodie. I unzipped
That's
the hoodie.
incredible. There you go. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Oh, anyway, sorry. Let me go back to my armchair psychology. Do you reckon hearing this family history at that formative age has sort of shaped you into these like, man, the world's kind of crazy and weird and all that sort of stuff? Sarah, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And when I was younger and I heard these stories, they, of course, really freaked me out, but I wanted to know more. And so my sort of fascination and, both my sister and I, Emma, both of our sort of fascination with horror came as a result of those stories.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah. And then sort of, growing up, becoming a teenager, even preteen, our father showed us, all of these, spooky stories and movies. So really he got us into watching, scary movies and, the love of horror and darkness and, the scary genre really started, at a young age and, it's still going strong today.
Well, here's a thing that I often drop into conversations if it's germane, is that I, as a kid, as a teen in particular, became a weird expert on the Manson family, a weird expert on the JFK assassination, a weird sort of viewer of what used to be called like A&E. There's a channel called A&E, and they used to have like true crime documentaries on like every Sunday afternoon or something. And I would just park they probably still do. So I park myself there and I just watch those. What I'm saying now, as I talk to you out loud and think, I drop these into conversation sometimes. I'm like, wait a minute. Like the first thing I really can remember learning about one of my favorite musicians was that he was killed by a gun. Is this what's taken me on a path, or what took me on a path rather, to like further explore the darker and extreme elements of the human psyche? Probably. Like, I'm just trying to analyze myself here. So anyway, I'm just getting at that. Emma, so based on what we're talking about, and just to give people listening a little more context, can you talk about one story that makes its way onto Malocchio? Like the stories you're reflecting from your family history and the spookiness and all that stuff. Can you just, so people have some sense of what we're talking about, home in on one story?
So I'll talk about a story that our Nona told us about when we were younger, because I remember getting into the idea of exorcisms, and I remember asking my Nona, were there exorcisms at your church, or like where you were? She goes, oh yeah, we had exorcisms. And I said, do you know anybody who was possessed? She said, yeah, my sister was possessed. And it was her sister Gina. And when Gina was a little kid, so the story kind of goes like this. There was a church called Madonna di Caravaggio, and strange things happened at that church, according to tale. And their parents growing up said, don't go over there. And it was like this traveling church. Don't go up there. Don't see what's going on. They do exorcisms. So naturally, Gina went and checked it out. Then Gina came home. And then this thing, Stregate.
Yes.
Which is, Strega is witch. There's, it's not necessarily that. It's closer to possibly the Romanian strigoi, which is a thing. Something that is embodying wrongness. It could be in the form of a person. And so they get a knock on the door. And the thing is, when Stregate says, can you let me in? You're kind of in a bind. If you let them in, you let them in. If you say no, they'll put the Malocchio on you. So she said no. So she had a Malocchio on her. And she started getting possessed. And she wasn't sleeping. Hard shapes would form in her pillow. And the way to get rid of this was to take all the feathers of your pillow and boil them and burn them and cast them in the river and set up a bunch of garlands so that it's almost like it's you're almost performing a funeral for something else to say goodbye to it. And that's what they did. And the way that she told the story was that it was her sister, and their brother Cesare. And quite possibly Angela, but Angela was probably a little kid by then. And that was the story that she told us, was these siblings trying to get rid of something.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that scared the hell out of me, because I think I was 5 or 6 and thought, oh God, oh God, oh God, you know, and you look at that fear of, especially looking back on it as a younger kid, right? That fear of, 1, doing something that you weren't supposed to do. 2, it followed you. And 3, how do you get rid of it before somebody else knows?
Yeah.
And who can you tell?
Yeah.
So you can take those points and turn it into something else. But that's one of the stories. And it really sticks with me now and I think it's because it hits home on that psychological element of, you did something you weren't supposed to, and now you have to deal with it.
Okay.
How do you fix that?
Well, that story, you're telling me that story scared me. So that's good. Well done on that level.
Excellent.
I'm frightened.
No problem.
Sarah, there's 2 things going on here that I want to ask you about. One, obviously, you have to believe that these things occurred because you're told they occurred by your family, and they offer firsthand accounts. Flip side, do you believe in what they did? Do you believe in what they said happened and did? Can you talk about those 2 things?
I absolutely believe everything that our Nona Maria told us, whether it be a little exaggerated, possibly, but the stories that she told us I hold dear, and I believe them to be true. When she told us these stories, and we have an interview that we conducted about a year and a half ago, I think, and it's her on camera, and she talked, I think, for about an hour or 2.
Yeah.
And by the end of her talking about all of these scary, spooky stories, she said, "That's enough. I don't want to talk about this anymore." So when she said that, it made me kind of stop and go, okay, that's enough. And I could tell that she's emotional with these stories as well. Yeah. She wants to tell them, and I know that she was obviously delighted that we wanted to know about these stories. Of course, she told us very scary stories. And of course, she told us absolutely wonderful and positive and beautiful, beautiful stories.
Yeah.
But we'll hold those stories for ourselves privately. But we'll allow everyone else to have a little bit of a glimpse into the really freaky and truly scary stories that she told us.
It's kind of difficult to exaggerate fear, right? Like there are you can say, when you say I was really scared, you know, how do you, I think there are a lot of different, how do I say it this way? There are a lot of different ways in which you can exaggerate certain emotions that were felt. But if you're recalling past and you say that you were very scared, I feel like that's an emotion that you don't really exaggerate. When you say that you were scared, you were scared.
No, I mean, the fact that Nona had to say that's enough, on the one hand, it's because the memories are hard. On the other, I imagine she's worried about invoking something. Like,
of course.
Oh, if I talk about this, I might conjure the same shit here or again, you know? Probably? Is that fair?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's interesting. Sorry to interject, Vish.
No, it's fine.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that you bring that up, because we had this conversation of, oh my goodness, we're going to be talking about this. Are we sort of invoking something? And I actually don't think that to be true. I think the fact that we are bringing these stories to life and talking about it, it's really important and powerful in order to create some sort of positive change as a result of talking about these spooky stories.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, you both work on the music together, you two in particular. I know when I left Guelph, Bonnie Trash seemed to be more of a live band, and I think it still is with different members, but you have taken on this record yourselves with the help of a producer. Emma, first of all, can you talk about who you worked with on this record?
Yeah, we worked with Josh Karodi, which was a dream. We always wanted to work with him. And we were successful in getting a grant with OAC. So we had written a grant application in 2020 and received it. And so it was really exciting because we were able to fund this project that we always wanted to do. So we reached out with Josh. Josh is awesome. Josh really knows how to make the sounds you are envisioning happen.
Yeah.
And do it in a way where it's collaborative, and then you know yourself how to produce the sounds that you want live, because you can hear that and you can see that process. You go, okay, how can I make this happen? Yeah. I don't know what else I can say about him other than he rules. He was awesome. we were able to chat and just have a great time, right? It wasn't awkward or anything. It was a lot of fun. We made something really cool together, and
We love Josh.
Yeah, it was just great to work with him to just make this happen too. So yeah,
that's great. So Sarah, let's talk about how you go from we have this concept that we want to convey lyrically, and it's got as you say, it's got a horror-oriented aspect to the storytelling, the narratives, if you will. Then you got to come up with, like, how do we conjure a sound that makes sense for this material? Can you, I know this is going to be a hard one to articulate because I keep having these conversations with bands, and so often you're just like, I don't know, we just were in the room and that's what happened and we stuck with it. We just kept doing that same thing over and over again. I can relate to that too as a musician. Like, I can't tell you why I came up with that part. It just happened one day and then that's the one. Anyway, can you talk a little bit though about the marriage of music and meaning, if you will, on this record? Because it's very affecting. It's very effective. For me, the combo, like, I think the tone of the music and your vocal and the lyrics, it's just a great marriage of things that have a visceral impact on me. Like, oh God, like this is getting under my skin a little bit, and anyway, sorry, I'm not saying this in a negative way, I think that's kind of the point a little bit, so sorry. Can you talk a little bit about any articulation you had of what this record was going to sound like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, thank you. That's awesome that you have that sort of reaction when you listen to the music. I think for us, having that concept already in place, already having those stories, we have that kind of base to play with.
Yeah.
So thinking about how to invoke horror, how to scare an audience, that kind of creates or helps create the tone for the overall song. Now, it depends. Like, Emma might have a riff and then I might have lyrics already written, and we'll sort of go back and forth and piece together certain riffs for, like, you know, the A-B sort of chorus from a technical standpoint. And I think, you know, influence also comes into play significantly. So while we were writing the record, while we were writing these songs, we thought, man, like, what are the bands that we absolutely love? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to kind of think back and go, who do we really, really love? Not in a mimicry sort of way,
no. Yeah.
But what tones do we love? You know, I love the Smashing Pumpkins. I love the drums in the Smashing Pumpkins. You know, I love Billy Corgan. I love Courtney Love and Hole and Godspeed You Black Emperor and Joy Division. So kind of thinking about all the different bands and music that we adore that are kind of in that sort of genre, or invoke some sort of fear, or invoke that kind of emotion, really helped us play into and carve out the tone and sounds that you hear on Malocchio. None of the songs are overly fast. They're brooding, they're slow moving, but they'll build up and they'll hit you.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really, really proud of this record and really, really happy about it. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things, I appreciate some of the artists you cited there. I had not picked up on a Smashing Pumpkins or Hole thing at all. We mentioned Godspeed. I pick up on some Joy Division, Bauhaus, Love and Rockets. To me, early 80s Sonic Youth and the guitar tone comes up quite a bit for me personally. So that's just my context here. So that's one thing. The other thing I have observed, which I think is an element of horror film soundtracks, is the pensiveness in a musical score or dynamic is that it's pretty consistent. like that build you're talking about, that seems conscious to me. Like the songs stay the same, I found, musically for quite a long time before there's any dynamic shift. Emma, is that sort of purposeful? Do you think that adds to the tension of what you're conveying?
I think so. I never really thought about it that way. I think in my head it was, all right, time to do some instrumental stuff now that when I want to do fun things with my guitar.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. When I look back on it, and especially now going through this, I'm still grieving. I really am, to be frank.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I think about that process of grief too, there is that brood and there is that you build up to explode. I don't know whether you explode in rage or you explode in sadness or you start to cry, but perhaps it's subconsciously following that same emotional trajectory where there's pensive thought and rumination, and then you have to do something in response to how powerful that feeling is too. So maybe that is along the same lines. I'm not too sure though. Yeah,
I was just going to add, Vish, in terms of you bringing up sort of film and movies and horror movies, that's another massive influence for us in terms of our music. We obviously are influenced by music, absolutely. To be perfectly honest with you, the last few years, what has inspired me in terms of writing music and writing this record are scary movies, are horror movies.
Yes.
The most amazing thing about horror movies is, of course, you've got the visual elements, but you also have some absolutely fantastic scores and really driving horrific music. So in terms of, musical influence, horror movies are number one, and also Black Sabbath. I forgot to mention Black Sabbath.
No, there's definitely some Sabbath, but I will go back again. I will take you both to my childhood and Jaws. John Williams' the score for Jaws, if you think about it, is da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. Like it's basically the same with minor variations, and it builds and builds. I don't mean to draw too fine a point between A Shark in the Ocean and your song Out at Sea, but there's that similar kind of that similar consistency in rhythm and tone, and you're like, where is this going? It builds to me suspense. Like, okay, at some point this is going to change, but I'm hooked. Like, what is happening right now? Can't be like this forever. And then when the changes come, sorry, now I'm doing like a rudimentary music 101 horror score class, and I don't mean to, but I'm
loving it.
But I'm just saying, I pick up on that. Like as I press play on this record, or hopefully I'll get the vinyl. I haven't got it yet. You know what I'm saying? Right now I have it digitally.
We'll send you one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That wasn't me.
You're
wasn't
welcome.
me, angling for free records. I just realized that I press play. Press play is a digital term, I guess. Anyway, that all I'm getting at, and it sounds like you've both thought about this and not thought about it. I think you came up with something very unique in this regard, or not. Sorry, it's unique It is unique, but like you say, it picks up on horror film motifs or film music motifs of just like, let's just hook them so they can't go. There's nowhere else to go. You're all along for the ride, and then it shifts. You're like, oh my God, what happened there? And then the voice. Anyway, all I'm saying is it's very ingenious. So congratulations on this, and that's all I wanted to get at. I don't know if. Yeah, sorry. Was I rambling? I was rambling a little bit, but I feel like we're all on the same page. You're having to, in engaging in some sort of horror rock, you've got to come up with the narrative, but there's got to be the appropriate soundtrack, right?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know, Jaws was an excellent example. Yeah, sorry, I'm just replaying the certain shots in Jaws that were so well done and so simply done.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they had to have a giant mechanical shark
that didn't work.
That kept breaking down. Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah. But it's the other parts, right? Where, it's the little boy that goes out on his flotation device, and there's this giant spot of red, and it's not even that's scary. What's scary is everybody's running back and the mom can't find him.
Sean, she's Or not Sean.
Yeah.
What the hell? Sorry, I forget what the kids.
Oh, I'm forgetting.
I watch Jaws like once a year, and I'm losing track of
Same.
the Kittrick. What's the kid's name? I can't remember. Anyway, sorry.
I don't remember. Yeah, I you know what? I'm the worst at that too because I just think, these are great. I want to see what goes on, right? Like,
Yeah.
the name's interchangeable. Everything else, no.
Yeah. Anyway, all this to say, it's a wonderful record. It's spellbinding in so many ways. So congratulations on it. What is next? I mean, the only other question I meant to ask you though, and I just realized that I'm swimming around in a shark-infested waters myself right now. What I neglected to ask you in terms of the evolution of the band is what you learned from the experience of making that EP and how you think it informed this record. And I meant to get to it because I feel like there's some distinctions there. Sarah, can you speak to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ed Cellini's Dead was sort of our first dive into recognizing that we really, really love horror stories. Mm-hmm. We like Northern Italian folklore and diving into our family's history. So that EP was so important for us as a learning experience, as development, as an artist.
I think getting back to playing heavier stuff too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Playing heavier and darker music. It's just sort of been in our blood and sort of refrained from it for a little while. And it's just been fantastic getting back to it. And loved making that EP, and Malocchio is just sort of, I'd say, a level up.
Yeah, I think we finally figured out what we want to sound like.
Do they feel like as a collection or a documentation of your family history, Emma, they're surely connected?
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's just a little. It's almost like that's a short film, and this is the full length film.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
We're still in film class, the three of us.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What is your Sarah? What does your family make of the fact that you're using your histories, your family history, I should say, as inspiration, fodder for your art?
They're very supportive and very excited about it, and just happy that there's, some sort of documentation of these stories and archiving the spooky stories that our Nona Maria told us, and just being able to share these stories with the world. And we're grateful to have a supportive family who also enjoys a good scary movie. So I think they're quite supportive of it all, for sure.
Yeah,
Nice.
and
That's
too, it's these stories are between us and our Nona. It's always going to be a different take or interpretation from somebody else, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is us sharing our time with her.
Right. Absolutely. Right. So in a way, it's probably revelatory for your family. They're not privy to the conversations you had with your Nona. And so they're hearing her in a way they may not have heard her before, for some of them anyway. That's really cool. That's really noble of you to kind of capture and share your family history with others this way. So well done. I'm happy for both
Thanks.
of you. So as I was getting to there, the housekeeping at the end of an episode, I suppose, by the time people hear this, the record will be out, and you will have played at least one record release show in
Yes.
my dearly beloved Guelph. So what else is coming up, Sarah, for Bonnie Trash? Are there more tour dates, those sorts of things?
We're going to take a little bit of a cat nap in December. And hopefully next year, we would absolutely love to go over to either the UK or the EU for a couple dates and start writing the next record.
Yeah.
Nice. Emma, have you started the process of conceiving of new songs and a next record already?
I know what sound I want to produce. I'm not there yet. I want it to sound like two tectonic plates scraping against each other. So I've just been working with how to make my guitar do that.
Let me know if I
So
can.
that's the starting point.
Let me know if I can connect you with like Keith Levine or Steve Albini for some guitar tone things. Maybe you can. I'm kind of joking, but yeah, I think I know what you're going for there. And I will say I'm very impressed with the sound and the tone. Like what I was kind of getting at is, I think Emma, your guitar is haunting. Like it works really
Thanks.
well with these haunting lyrics, and and Sarah's beautiful vocals. Like, it really all works really well together. So I'm just saying, you've done a really great job. It's just in time for Halloween, if I might say. Again,
That's correct. Yep. The best time. I'm so excited.
absolutely. So Sarah, if people want to learn more about Bonnie Trash and pick up a copy of Malocchio, where would you like to send them?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can check out Hand Drawn Dracula's Bandcamp. Our album will be available on the HDD Bandcamp page.
Okay, and tour dates and stuff?
Tour dates, just find us on Instagram, Bonnie Trash Band, and that's our main social platform, and check us out there.
Okay, very good. So I'd like to go out on a song, if it's okay, from Malocchio. For those people who've heard the show, when I have two people on, and more than one person, I should say, I put it to a bit of a vote. I ask one person to pick, but then the other person has veto power. If they don't like the choice, then there's a small debate, and then we have to go through like a voting process. It's very arduous. It's very annoying if there's a debate. There generally aren't, though. I'm going to ask Emma if Emma can pick the song that we go out on, and then Sarah, you will have an opportunity to approve or decline Emma's selection. So Emma,
Oh my God, this is funny.
Emma,
Okay.
can you
Yeah.
please pick a song from Malocchio that we can go out on right now?
Oh, Sarah's totally going to correct me. This is great. I want to say Lashes on Fire. I think it's our shortest song.
Sorry, Sarah just gave a really enthusiastic thumbs up, so I think we're avoiding the veto.
Wow.
I don't know what happened there.
This is a first. This is a first.
So
We're twins.
I agree.
I say something, Sarah's like, nah, it's got to be something else. Oh,
she probably,
all right.
because you're twins, she probably knew what you were going to say, if I may employ a twin cliche. I don't know. Anyway, there's no telepathy? You must have something. You must have some sort of magical thing going on there. Okay, so
little
you
bit.
picked what'd you say was the shortest song on the record?
Lashes on Fire.
Okay, why did you,
Yeah.
did you pick it because it's short? Why did that come to mind?
I picked it because it's. Well, I'm editing a music video to it right now, but
I see. It's on your mind.
it's on my mind, and I'm listening to it back, and not to gloat, but I'm kind of happy with the way I did the background slide guitar on it, and I felt pretty good about it. And I don't know, it's a nice little mean song.
It has a metal moment at the end, so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to share the little metal moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a little bit of context there about the sound of it. Sarah, do you want to say anything about sort of the lyrical content?
Just another little spooky lyric for you, Vish.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. If that's where you want to leave it, I'll let people
That's
make up
where
their
I
own,
wanna leave it.
Let people make up their own mind. Okay, from the excellent new record Malocchio by Bonnie Trash, this is a great song called Lashes on Fire. Emma, Sarah, I don't mean to be untoward or say something inappropriate, but I love you both very much. I thank you for this time. Thank you for being you. For what it's worth, I'm happy and proud of you from afar that you made this great record and the Bonnie Trash is still going on. So for what it's worth, I say all those things, and I wish you the best of luck in the future. Thanks for this time today.
Thank you so much, Vish.
Thanks,
Really
Vish.
Appreciate it.
And we love you too.
Yeah.
I was fishing. I was hoping that would happen.
I knew it. I'm just joking.
Shame your lashes are on
Oh, a little taste of home for me. Special thanks to Sarah and Emma from Bonnie Trash for appearing on this, the 734th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't find an episode you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, all you got to do is visit vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control on Facebook or follow the show on Twitter at Vish Creative, or you can follow me directly on Twitter and on Instagram at Vishkhanna. At least one of those two things should still exist by the time you're listening to this outro. Also, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation to support this podcast. $6 American or more grants you access to exclusive content, including you get the episodes earlier than everyone else, you get some bonus content, I dig into my audio archives and present things I think you might find interesting that were never featured on this podcast. They come from my writing life and other lives I've had in the audio music journalism? You know what I'm saying. That kind of thing. So all of that is available at Patreon. You're also providing me and this show with the primary source of revenue it needs to feel like this is all worth it. All the work, the sweat, the toil. It's all worth it to me in a deep and soulful spiritual sense. But come on, it'd be nice to justify it in some ways with the money. That's why we work. I think you know why we work. Never mind. Visit patreon.com/Creative Control and support this show today. And if you want a Creative Control t-shirt, just message me and I'll get you one while supplies last. Thanks again to Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, respectively, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario, for their in-kind support for this show. As always, thanks to my dear friend Jim Guthrie for letting me use some music of his on this show. You can learn more about Jim at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you so much for listening to this episode featuring Bonnie Trash. I hope you'll check out their new album, Malocchio, and keep an eye out if they're coming to your town. You can go see them. Also, thanks for subscribing to Creative Control or following the podcast, whatever it is you do. And, telling your friends about the show, and maybe they'll do the same because they trust you and your word, and that helps spread the word about Creative Control. All of that is very meaningful to me, so thank you for all of that. Thank you for listening to this. I hope you're well, and that I will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.